So our lead this hour comes from the Diamond. The flag is up. The 2023 regular season got underway in professional baseball. All 30 big league teams were in action. I don't know how much of this you watched. Perhaps none of it. Maybe you watched a couple of games. Maybe you watched 5 minutes of one game. It started out with a bang as Aaron Judge hit the first home run of the new season. The Yankees had an advantage hitting the first home run. They were playing one of the two very early games to start the festivities. It was the Yankees and Giants in the Bronx, and had the Atlanta Braves and the Nationals, the other game that started very early in compared to all the other games. So we had action into the late television window on the West Coast, including the Angels, who have 3 players making more than the entire Athletics roster, but somehow managed to lose in Oakland in their opener. But there's a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. So let us discuss. The question here, what are you going to remember from opening day 2023? So I've got Clydesdale Elementary School and elevator music. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a soft pretzel with some gooey neon cheese sauce on the side. So, to answer the question, what are you going to remember from opening day? I'm going to remember a lot right now, but if you ask me a month from now, probably nothing. But right now, since the question is being asked, we do the show now. I loved having a full menu card. Stayed up to watch the start of the baseball season, the Gigantes and the Yankees, and watched Aaron Judge hit the home run. So that was the beginning. Slept a little bit, woke up. There was more baseball on. But that was an act of arson, as John Heyman would say, by Aaron Judge there against his old team, the Giants. Remember, there was one night Aaron Judge for like an hour and a half was a Giant, and then he was no longer a Giant. And I'm sure John Heyman was very proud. But Aaron Judge continues to be my favorite player to watch. I'm not a Yankee fan. My niece is a Yankee fan. That doesn't really count. She's from New York. I think she just likes the hat because it's trendy still. But regardless, Aaron Judge, you know why I enjoy watching Aaron Judge play? I've seen him play in person a few times over the years. Aaron Judge reminds me of a young Moneyball Maller back in the day, bigger than all the other kids, looks like a glitch when you watch Aaron Judge play. There's some players that look like a glitch because they're so small, but Aaron Judge is the opposite. And baseball is a sport that is a sport of miniature ponies, little show ponies. And Aaron Judge is built like a Clydesdale playing baseball. So it was cool to see that. I was excited to see the Chicago White Sox take down a little piece of the Berlin Wall, the wall of cheating. The Astros, how pathetic was that? They think they actually won the World Series last year. Will someone let the Astros know nobody won the World Series last year? Can somebody let them know that didn't count because they had a bunch of cheaters still on the team? Let them know if you're able to get a hold of them. And as you know, on this show, I support the Dodgers and whoever is playing the A-holes. Those are my favorite teams. So a very nice start to the baseball season. See Houston lose. Staying in Texas, the debut, the maiden voyage of Jacob deGrom, the greatest pitcher the Mets have had in years, and he left to go play deep in the heart of Texas. He made his Rangers debut in a slugfest. We had a couple of high-scoring games, Rangers and Phillies, the Blue Jays and the Cardinals. But the Phillies-Rangers game, how did deGrom pitch? You saw the game, you know, but if not, don't ask. deGrom was like an Italian chef there. He was cooking up meatballs and just right down the middle there. He threw 73 pitches, gave up 6 hits and 5 earned runs in 3 2/3 innings, so that works out to an ERA of over 12 after one start. Nice beginning. Great opening act there for the $185 million ace in Arlington. Also good to see the Dodgers pick up where they left off. Always fun to beat up on the ugly redheaded stepchildren of the National League West. The Arizona Diamondbacks bludgeoned by the Dodgers as Roberto's pick to click. My guy Roberto loves James Outman, his new favorite Dodger. And he was balling there at Chavez Ravine for the Dodgers. And it's refreshing that the names changed. The rosters have turned over the years, but rarely does Arizona ever win at Dodger Stadium. They almost never win at Dodger Stadium. Now, page 2 here. So we'll shift away from some of the opening thoughts from opening day, but tell me your opinion on the debut of the real pitch clock. We had the soft launch in spring training, but now this is when these games count. This time it matters. So I would say it was a relatively smooth beginning, unless I missed something, and I don't think I did. It was pretty smooth. I will warn you, though, that it had the vibes of elementary school. I thought I was back in elementary school. Remember when you were in elementary school and everyone tried to be on their best behavior, and it was the first day of school? Everyone's got their back-to-school attire. The uniforms all look great. Everyone's optimistic, positive, raring to go. That's opening day in a nutshell. And one of my observations, right off the top, I was flipping around, Major League Baseball needs to fully embrace the clock. If they're going to use the pitch clock, they need to fully embrace it. Now, what am I getting at? So I'm flipping around. I may or may not have been using those Russian websites, but I was going around watching these different baseball games, and many of the broadcasts did not feature the pitch clock on the graphics. So I ask you, is it that hard to add a chyron at the bottom or the top of the screen that has the pitch clock on it? Is it that difficult? Yeah, they can do it in the NBA and the NFL. I'm pretty confident they can put that in Major League Baseball broadcast. And as a consumer, as a viewer of Major League Baseball broadcast, I want to see, because there's some strategy involved in that, whether the pitcher's going to milk the clock all the way to the end, whether the hitter's going to panic and whatnot based on the clock. And so that when I become the overlord of baseball, that will be mandatory. When they finally get rid of Rob Manfred, they hire me as the commissioner of baseball, then I will put that in. But opening day was also, the word is trivial for a couple of players. They will be forever immortalized, and I promise you, a couple years down the line, we will use this on our show for the Who Am I game and the Insta Trivia that we do every night on the show. So come on down, Rafael Devers. Congratulations to the Red Sox, who deserved to lose because they started Corey Kluber opening day. You should always lose if Corey Kluber, at this point in his career, is your opening day starter. And sure enough, on a cold day in Boston, the Sox lost. But the Red Sox star, Rafael Devers, who got paid this offseason, he had a couple of hits, had an RBI. But don't bury the lead, my man. He has been immortalized because on a 1-2 count in the bottom of the 8th inning at Fenway, with no runners on base and nobody out, Devers was called for strike 3. You're out. He was ruled out on a pitch clock violation. Why? He did not step into the batter's box within the allotted time, so the umpire rung him up. And Rafael Devers becoming the first player in Major League Baseball ever, because they never had this before. It was impossible to have this, to strike out on a pitch clock violation. Get out of here. And for those of you that have not paid any attention to baseball, bad job by you. The pitch clock rule, brand new here. You should know that by now. The refresher course, there's a 30-second timer between batters, a 15-second timer with the bases empty, and a 20-second timer when there's a runner on base. So there's 3 different time periods, and the umpire can stop the clock if there's a few reasons. Rare and appropriate. But Devers, he also has a partner in crime, and that comes out of Chicago because congratulations, Marcus Stroman, journeyman pitcher Marcus Stroman, ex-Met, ex-Blue Jay, the Cub pitcher. He was dinged for the first ever pitch clock violation in baseball history by a pitcher. Because he took more than 20 seconds between pitches during the Cubs' win over the Brew Crew at Wrigley Field. And he was not a happy camper after the game. He was lamenting the fact that it was very tough for him. The pitch clock, he said, it's a big adjustment. And we got a little tiny violin out. We were very sad that we had to hear that. All right, last word here. So a lot of positive vibrations, good vibrations for the start of the baseball season. How can Major League Baseball bottle up the optimism, the excitement from opening day? And the answer to that is it's impossible. I'm going to be Benny Buzzkill on this one. Major League Baseball, I like it. I'm into it, but it is not designed for intense day-to-day consumption. It's like the Boston Marathon. You get excited when you start the Boston Marathon. After about a mile, you've got a bit of a dopamine hit still going, but then you settle in for the rest of the 26.2 miles, and it's just muscle memory. It's pushing through the race. You glide along, and you build up to the crescendo when you get close to the finish line. But Major League Baseball's regular season, the way it's designed, and now that's another example of why the hardest baseball season of all time was when the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020. 60-game season. It's not a marathon. That was a sprint. That's why it's the hardest of all time. But now we're back to the regular marathon, and the regular season is elevator music. It is background sound. And that's the way it's supposed to be, right? You live your life. You're a sports fan. You know that 98% of the time on a random Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever, you're going to have between now and October, if you want to watch or listen to a game or listen on a radio or watch it on television, it'll be available. You can check in on your team from time to time. You don't have to be OCD about it for every 100 and every one of the 162 games, and you can save some of that energy for the playoff push. But it is a double-edged sword also, because if your team is treading water in July, you can still get to a World Series. Like you have like April, May, and June just to F around and fiddle with whatever you want to fiddle with, as long as you don't fall too far behind. My example of that would be the Phillies, who last year were blah, they were blah, and then they ended up getting to the World Series. And then the year before, also out of the National League East, remember the Atlanta Braves saving us from the cheaters and winning that wonderful pennant there in Georgia when they were mediocre midway through the baseball season.